So this is something a little bit different than we usually do. Essentially, hi everybody, because we're all kind of going through this quarantine thing together, and there's a lot of misinformation out there, a lot of divisiveness. I thought I would bring upon an honest to goodness doctor so we can kind of, ask some of the questions that we have about what's really kind of going on, the rumors, what's true, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't. For any of you watching this live, jump in the chats. We will ask your questions too. But for now, I'd like to introduce my friend, my fraternity brother, and one of my best mates, Dr. Connor. Hey, Connor.
How's it going?
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just going to say, do you mind just sort of introducing yourself to the viewer, let them know kind of a little bit about your background and, what you're kind of doing?
Okay. So I'm an internal medicine physician. Basically, that means, and I'm a hospitalist, which means that I pretty much exclusively work in the hospital. I see everything that is not directly surgery and is not adults, not peds, only adults, not really much in the way of OBGYN. That being said, I'm a generalist, so I will have patients who kind of do everything. So we, for the last several years, have just been working exclusively in the hospital and being a teaching physician. So been following closely every now and then, working on COVID unit. We haven't had too many where I am, fortunately, but I am mostly here to answer some questions, hopefully put some things into perspective, try to not have too strong of opinions, but more just kind of present the data as I understand it. Certainly not trying to be the be-all, end-all opinion on this, but it might help just to kind of frame things a little bit, and maybe from a perspective without all the charged rhetoric around it, perhaps.
And you mind letting them know exactly where you are?
Yeah, I'm in New Mexico, the southern part of the state right now. So.
Cool. Okay, well, for weeks, since we've been talking about doing this, I've been compiling questions. So you can see I got a fishbowl here full of questions for you, just to kind of keep it moving. I was hoping we can kind of keep everything to about 2 minutes, unless you really feel like things need to get into a lot more detail. That way we can just kind of keep pushing through the topics. So let's just kind of jump in, okay? Let's grab the first guy in here, see where it goes. Well, this one just says truth or dare, so I don't know.
That sounds aggressive for a starting question.
Isn't it kind of aggressive? Let's maybe say truth or dare for later, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what else we got up in here then. First question. This one says we're still in an election cycle. Let's leave these alone and let's just go down the list. How about that? Okay. So.
Follow your lead.
Yeah. Let's just grab one of these right now. First question I got for you is, when do you think we'll get a vaccine?
The honest question there, the honest answer there is I don't know. The fastest I think they've ever rolled out a vaccine is about 4 years. That being said, we've never seen such collaboration before between so many places. The thing that concerns me right now, quite honestly, is that a lot of the information that's being released is not really through SEC type of guidelines. So you keep kind of seeing these rapid swings because it's not really all being controlled by the way that our country does it. So we have very specific ways that our businesses are allowed to release this information. So every time we see a successful trial or successful this or successful that, sometimes they're not really supposed to be announcing it to a certain degree because the stock market kind of flings all over the place. There are a lot of different types of vaccines that are coming up right now. That, the most promising one that I think of right now is actually coming out of Oxford, that they were actually studying coronavirus for SARS initially and MERS, I think. And they just kind of extrapolated that. And instead of trying to trying to remember exactly how they did it, but they changed their method in which they were approaching it. And so they said that they could potentially have one as soon as September for mass production. Now, I would call that extraordinarily optimistic. But I will say, there's a lot of fear about the vaccines being pushed forward. I think that anyone who's going to be putting forward a vaccine is going to be under incredible scrutiny, particularly for the first ones, particularly from the medical community. So I don't think it'll really be able to be out into the public without hopefully good vetting. Because, just as litigious as our current society is and the way Americans are, I really highly doubt that, if you are the first to market with something and you screw it up, particularly a vaccine that could have extraordinarily detrimental effects on the vaccine in general and people who are willing to take it.
Okay, so you said you're assuming 4 years is your first guess?
No, I'm probably faster than that. So 4 years is the fastest we've ever come out with one. They have been predicting 18 months if everything goes perfectly well. A lot of the hindering factors, even if you make it as quickly as possible, you have to test it in humans and make sure that it's not causing problems.
Okay, so ideally, like a year and a half, 2 years is even that's kind of fast, but that's a kind of a fair guess.
It would be the fastest vaccine ever made.
Okay, we're in the furthest point of the future we've ever been. Hopefully, so
we've never seen such collaboration before either. There's never been such a global effort for the same purpose, and with the sharing of information. When you speak to some of the people doing the research, it's actually pretty remarkable because they're talking about how quickly things are moving. As a general public, we keep asking for more data, more information. We say we don't have enough. And if you talk to people doing the research, they're saying it's amazing how much we have in such a short period of time.
Okay, well let's keep it moving because, like I said, we have 40 questions, so I want to try to keep everything to around 2 minutes.
Sorry,
no, it's a lot.
I can be verbose.
It's a lot. It's okay. So let's see. So next one I got. Let me see. I spelled this wrong. Have we witnessed the end of high fives, hugs, daps, and shaking hands? At least for now, until we do have some sort of vaccine. Is that just sort of got? We're all going to be doing the Spock, live long and prosper, and just sort of tapping our chests and letting people know that we appreciate them. Can I hug my mother?
You could probably hug your mother, but it's all risk-benefit analysis, really. There's risk in everything that we do. We're probably going to be pushing against trying not to have the closest contact for a long period of time. Mm-hmm. That being said, people are people. Our culture is our culture. I don't know if, things have changed forever, probably, but how much of that's going to be related to kind of the way that we interact, I don't know. Knowing the way that we kind of do things and the way that I feel like people are kind of getting complacent already right now, I bet you that particularly around the time we end up getting a vaccine, I think people will probably back to normal-ish, or at least acting much more normal. But who's to say? I think people will be a bit more cautious.
Okay, but until we do have some sort of vaccine or something, is it probably for the best that we avoid contact and we remain that 6 feet distance, you think?
A lot of that, yeah. Shaking hands should definitely not be part of what we usually do anymore.
Mm-hmm. Can we all just start using bidets too? Like, doesn't that seem archaic? Why are we just smearing the shit around? Like, let's there's got to be a better way. All right, let's keep it moving. I'm just saying, Okay. Will the second wave be worse?
It's hard to say. So I fear that it will be, mostly because of the attitude rather than the virus. People don't want to be locked up anymore. It's really hard to do. The economic consequences have their own issues as well, clearly. So it's impossible to measure the true the cost of lives, rather, on both sides. Mm-hmm. So you're really choosing between what we hope is the best of two evils, and they really are both just extraordinarily difficult. The hope is, in most cases, when you have viruses like this, they tend to be, they might get more infectious, but they typically are less deadly as time goes on. But, you know, if you look at the flu pandemic, you know, 100 years ago, we saw 3 peaks. Hello. They had, I think the second peak was worse and the first peak was similar to the third. Go with Mom. Sorry, I have someone trying to.
Hi.
Jump in. Go with Mom, please.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good. Yeah, I know I'm a little bit concerned that people I feel like we just came up with this arbitrary date. Oh, May 15th, you know, or something like that. It's like, oh, okay, it's done now. Let's go back to normal. So hopefully, I mean, we'll see how this goes. I know it's an existential question that a lot of people, I think it's hard for them to wrap around their own mortality because they haven't seen it firsthand. Plus the fact that it's become politicized. So we'll see. It's kind of wild. Should we avoid air travel and just Zoom or do other forms of video messaging, you know, for business or whatever, if we don't need to travel?
We need to be keeping our social circle small at very least. So, hey, take this to Mom, please. There you go, Mama. Sorry. You know, the international travel is really tough. I mean, that's actually, so my wife is, you know, from Ecuador, and they've been hit extraordinarily hard. They've shut down their borders. No one's allowed in or out. So obviously there's places like that. We keep seeing every place has a different curve. The virus, when it's isolated in certain areas, is going to mutate in different ways. I'm sticking to local travel personally. I think that international travel is going to be, I mean, it's a tricky thing. Certainly.
Okay, that actually leads well into my next question. So, I mean, beyond international, should we allow interstate? So, you know, you're in New Mexico, I'm in California. Once we do reopen up society, should we maybe consider closing the borders between states? I mean, unless it's for, you know, commerce or something that is necessary.
I mean, not a hard close, maybe. It's hard to say. Really, the truth is, I think it should be much more regional. You know, we do have these arbitrary borders and we have these jurisdictions, but, you know, if, for example, you have one county that's shut down next to another county that's open, all you see is people move from the shutdown county to the open county and bring the cases back, which is what I'm seeing where I am. So the county next to us, actually, it's next state over, it's in Texas. They're open. They have a bigger city than us, and people here are going stir crazy, so they're going back and forth. Now, I'm not saying the answer is no. I actually think that if you were to open up commerce here, then people would be less inclined to go back and forth or go to the place where they're at higher risk. But, you know, I think it would be hard to just entirely limit it. But I think when you get to really overrun areas, like if you get to the places like the Navajo reservation in the Four Corners area, people should not be going there. That is dangerous, one of the most dangerous places in the world right now, as far as the virus.
And I know I did want to end up touching on that later, how this is impacting minority communities and all that. So, I mean, well, okay, since we're here, let's just sort of maybe touch on it really quick. I know it's not a real quick thing to get into. That's why I wanted to save it for when there's more time. But do you want to explain really quick to the viewers what's kind of going on on some of these reservations and why it's been a problem?
To my understanding, because this is not, I'm not as completely well versed as far as this, other than the fact that I know that right now per capita, the Navajo reservation, the Four Corners area right now is the worst in the country per capita. For the first time ever, Doctors Without Borders has been released in the United States. And initially people thought they would have a very different time there. And then they found that not so much, because there's still no running water and there's still not a lot of electricity, which a lot of people in the United States kind of find surreal because it's the United States. Part of the issue is the Native American communities are much more independent. I want to say closed off, but they follow their own rules. They have their own governance in many ways. So our governor can say something that they don't necessarily have to follow. My understanding again is that they kind of felt that they were more isolated than they actually were. And so they thought they were socially isolating inherently, but somehow the virus got in there. They didn't have appropriate testing, as unfortunately with their history, they're usually the last to get appropriate resources. The Native Americans have historically been, unfortunately, very low on the food chain when it comes to medicine in general, very underserved. So their testing was entirely limited. Their resources are limited. They don't have running water. They don't have appropriate electricity. Clearly, that's not everybody, but a lot of them. And their ability to distance is much more limited. And so therefore you have much more widespread of the virus. And then this virus in particular has the ability, I think I read that 40% of the virus is spread before people are symptomatic, or 40% of the cases, which is astronomically high if you think about it, in something that takes this long to manifest as for symptoms, it can be up to 14 days. So people can just be going around infecting others, and they just didn't know that they had it, quite honestly, and they thought they were isolated. Turns out that they weren't, and so it just exploded. All the numbers we get are delayed, really.
Yeah, I don't know. That's it's disgusting because it treasures up a lot of the trauma, I think, from the past. The fact that we brought disease here, the pilgrims and the smallpox, and now it's like almost kind of again, like they're like, oh, we're here, we're safe, and here comes this other virus, and it's really sad. But that's a whole other topic. That's a rabbit hole we could spend this whole show on. So let's kind of just keep it moving for now, but put a pin in it because I'm sure we can come back around to that at some point. We're still in an election cycle, which I threw this in there because it's wild how much it's being ignored. Not just that fact is being ignored right now, because obviously we have this thing looming over us, but the fact that this virus is being politicized online. I feel like there's two main factions depending on what your social circle is. And the extremes are, this is a purposefully manufactured virus. This is the extremes that I've heard, that if you really want to go down the conspiratorial rabbit hole, it was that Obama's administration funded the Wuhan Center for Disease or whatever. They purposely made this strain of coronavirus, and the deep state helped to spread it in order to bring down Trump. That's the far alt-right camp that exists out there. And then the other side, the far left, is we're all going to die. Okay, those are kind of the two extremes. And depending what circles you run in online, you may be getting a lot of stuff to back those sort of streams of thought. So the reason why I'm bringing those up is because, like I said, this is being so highly politicized. Wearing a face mask has been politicized. Like, oh, you libtard, you're going to wear your mask. Oh, you want to buy into all that? You're destroying the economy. Or, we're MAGA. We have the right to not wear masks. You're impeding on our liberties and our freedoms. This is oppression, asking us to do this and not be able to get our haircuts or whatever. So how do you view the political implications with regards to this virus, or are there any?
Political implications, I don't know. It's hard to exactly answer that. The problem is somehow if you believe in masks, you don't like Trump. Somehow that if you want to open the economy, you can't be afraid of the virus. It has become, there's like two factions, and it doesn't really make sense. The virus, it's a virus. It doesn't make decisions. It just moves. So I think the politicization, bringing politics into it has done nothing but make it extraordinarily dangerous.
Right.
misrepresent the information. I mean, just so far, seems like everybody I know on Facebook is an expert. So it's hard to get away from the misinformation. And again, I think also part of it is just what I said at the beginning is we don't really know so much. So we're operating with the information that we have. People are pointing fingers, looking back and saying, we should have acted this way, we should have acted that way. Look at all this evidence for proof. And the truth of the matter is, it's all circumstantial.
Mm-hmm.
It is impossible to tell. We're gaining new evidence by the day, but we're doing the best with the information that we have. Well, I think that people think individually they're doing their best. I really don't think that anyone is intentionally trying to do a bad job at this. But that being said, there definitely have been some problems with rollouts and other things. But I don't care who you're voting for. I think everyone needs to be backing the government, or at least, or the system at this point to a degree about health and safety. No one should be wanting anyone to fail in this, because in reality, we're one country and we all affect each other.
Yeah. Now, do you think that the fact that it was, do we start quarantining too late? You know, New York, had it happened earlier, would we be in a better situation, or would the death toll, not be quite what it was? Or is it too late to even think like that? Did the Trump administration defund the CDC, and was that a problem? Were there a lot of woulda, coulda, shoulda scenarios? You don't plan for a pandemic, it's just.
Well, that actually was not to get too political one side or the other, but yes, actually they did plan for a pandemic. It was planned for way back when. It started with, there was some beginning with Clinton, then it really got wrapped up by George W. Bush, and it was continued by Obama, and a lot of it was defunded recently. But right now, the reason I'm here is not really for political opinions or anything like that. The point is, how can we make it better from here?
Fair.
Could we have done better? Absolutely. Doesn't matter now.
Yeah.
We have to make it better from today.
Yeah. No, you're right. Let's go ahead and keep it moving. How do you compare the U.S. response in New York and San Francisco, which were essentially the two first hotbeds of where it popped up in America, compared to what's happening here in LA and what's going on closer to you in New Mexico? I can speak more to LA if you don't know. You can speak to New Mexico.
It's not entirely fair to compare them, because they're the first, and so they're going to be delayed.
Mm-hmm.
I personally think in healthcare, my governor in New Mexico was actually I think she was the Secretary of Health here in the state. And so she had a strong healthcare background, at least for a politician. And so she didn't take it lightly, and as such, she shut things down quickly. Depending on which side you're on, some people say too quickly, and it made it look like not too much has happened. As a matter of fact, if you remove the four corners, our numbers go down drastically. So it was a very aggressive response, and she's still being very aggressive with it. But now we're kind of being affected by the way people are opening up other places. Again, the economy is a big issue. So that's what I can speak to as far as New Mexico. As New York, I mean, that's entirely a different scenario than where I live. As far as, I lived there several years ago, and people literally live on top of each other. So how do you reconcile that when you're trying to socially distance? And when they don't have the same type of, even the grocery stores are different, Yeah. If you want to make something frequently, you have to go to more than one place. So That's just kind of increasing your exposure. But as far as the responses, I think New York was delayed. I think they suddenly got aggressive, but the New York City, de Blasio and Cuomo were kind of saying the different thing for a little while, and then de Blasio suddenly changed his tune after making, in my opinion, egregious error of encouraging people to go out and, we saw how that happened. As far as, I don't know as much about the San Francisco or LA responses, though, to be quite honest with you.
I just know, like you were saying about New York being on top of each other, San Francisco, New York, they have the public transit as their primary mode of communication. So, the BART in San Francisco, over there in the Bay Area, and then obviously the subway system or whatever, taxis in New York, people aren't driving as much themselves. So there's just a lot more spread initially. And I think what happened is, I think a cruise ship pulled up to somewhere in San Francisco or close by and docked, and they had an outbreak of corona on the actual cruise ship. So they had brought it, and they're trying to figure out what to do. That's when there was the whole talk of, I think Trump was just like, I didn't want to let him off the cruise ship, type thing. Like, I just leave him there. And I mean, that's so dystopian, but I mean, I kind of get it. It just comes to where you place your value. Is it on lives? Is it on, and if it's on lives, which way are you going to go there? You're like, let this ship of people die. Like, I mean, it's
movie-esque.
It's totally. I mean, we're living in the outbreak scenario right now. So it's wild, and we'll get through this. We will get through this, but it's like it's insane. So I mean, I know here in LA we jumped on it, or Mayor Garcetti jumped on it quick. He was aggressive about it, just like, oh, everything is shut down. Once the NBA shut down its season, I want to say that same week he was like, yeah, everyone, you're quarantined now. So it was maybe a little fast, and the business implications are sad with regard to small businesses and seeing who's going to make it. I know already the ones that have gone down, and this is a topic for later too, is Soup Plantation Buffet, J. Crew, Pier 1. I've heard BJ's restaurant, no more Pazookies. Like, these are kind of on the way out. Like, these places, they just can't. They're all going bankrupt because of no one working, and not to mention the mental toll of a lot of these. The gig economy. Like, who's to say, even when we open stuff back up, like the film industry here, you're right on top of each other when you're in production. If people are going to be working, and then the mental toll it's putting on people if they can't pay their bills, if they can't support their families, if they can't eat. We're going to see waves of the effect of this, I think, for a couple of years. I think we are headed into another depression. This is going to be another depression. So
hopefully not as bad as the last one, but yeah. It's going to be tough. There's no question there.
Yeah. So while we're talking about money, Jeff Bezos is set to become the world's first trillionaire on the back of this pandemic. But now they're saying 2026. So essentially, and it's funny, I don't even know if I spelled trillionaire right, because billionaire, millionaire, I don't know. So it's hard for a lot of people, I think, to wrap their head around these numbers. They sound so similar. A millionaire, a billionaire, a trillionaire. What's the difference? And I think the way I really first understood these amounts of money was by comparing dollars to seconds. Okay, and then this is kind of the best way, I think, for anyone to do it is 1 million seconds adds up to about, 12 days? Something to that effect. Yeah.
I think it's 11 days and then 30 years or something.
Right. Where a billion seconds is 32 years. So if you're looking at it that way, the average person makes somewhere between 60 to 100,000 seconds a year, which breaks down to about a half a day to 2 days. So that's the normal person. You make about a half a day to 2 days in a year. A millionaire is making 12 days, multimillionaire, exponentially greater. A billionaire is making 32 years in a year, which is already like crazy. So a trillionaire now, A trillionaire is like, what are we talking about? Are we talking about 3,600 or 36,000 years of time? Like this is it's a gross amount of it's as much as it's more than countries make.
Well, just remember an easy way. In Spanish they say things a little bit differently. You know how we say, 1,500 or something like that. When they talk about billions, they say thousand millions sometimes.
Okay.
So yeah. I mean, so think about that. So a billion is really 1,000 millions. So a trillion is a million millions. So if you think $1 million is a lot, having 1 million of those, but
yeah. That
speaks to the values of the country, among other things. The fact that he could give people, everybody in the country, a lot, I don't know what the math is, but probably 3 figures as far, at least, as so 300 million people. Yeah, you give everyone $1,000, still have money left over. It's kind of ridiculous. He could pay for one of the stimuluses individually.
Yeah. But basically, I mean, look, congratulations to anyone who got Amazon stock when they were a bookstore in the early 90s or late 90s, whenever, early thousands, when they were the little fledgling online bookstore company, because between Amazon Prime, their streaming service, and who's to say, things might take a dip later, but the streaming service, online shopping, and then what's it called? Fresh, I think, which is the at-home grocery store that they're doing. He's killing it. And he's slowly morphing into Pitbull. Have you seen that guy recently? But, okay. What do you think about the internet doctors and the infectious disease expert next door? Now, I'm being facetious. I'm talking about, everyone presenting their opinions online. Some might say that's what we're doing right now. But again, I want to emphasize the fact you are a real doctor. So the people watching this at home who think we're just a couple guys here, just a couple white guys just talking about, what we have to say about stuff. There's a little bit more credibility to what you have to say than your tinfoil hat wearing friend next door.
A lot of it's disheartening, It's a hard job. It's what I've always wanted to do. So it's really difficult to be argued against, I guess. I mean, sometimes I think people don't quite understand how much really goes into it because they do a quick Google search and it tells them something. But I mean, you were with me in college, right? And then after that, I did another period of time equivalent with college, but basically no breaks. And then after that, I took another several years to work minimum, pretty much 80-hour weeks and learn just to learn. And then after that, I took an additional year to kind of get a little bit of a niche, but in a particular area about focusing on patient safety. But, that's 8 years after college focusing on something. So when I some people legitimately ask me questions, which is nice, and I'll kind of give them my viewpoint. It's just interesting sometimes to be told how wrong I am by someone who has no clue. It can be very disheartening. The other thing is before I moved here, I was in New York, and so I'm talking to some of the people who are at the epicenter of this, and it's terrifying. I'm hearing kind of some of their stories, and it's, I've seen a couple here. I just can't imagine having a whole hallway full, a whole hospital full. I mean, they're terrifying. The way that some of these patients convert, it really can be horrific. I mean, there's a reason why some of these doctors are suffering from PTSD. So when you get questioned about a hoax or people telling you don't know what you're talking about when you're literally watching people die in front of you, is tough. But for the most part, I will say, people are supportive. Most people are supportive. And a matter of fact, there have been a large amount of, I've never felt so supported. At the same time as I'm being questioned, I've actually really never felt so supported. I feel like sometimes the doctors have kind of evil face in society, or a greedy face. And at least for now, it seems to kind of have evaporated for the most part, which, you know, I get people being more grateful now. So it's both. It's disheartening, and sometimes it can be heartwarming. It just kind of depends on the day, really, and who you're interacting with.
Sure. Now, what about these farm wars, the pharmaceutical wars? Remdesivir, hydrochloroquine, and our new drug czars, you know, up there pushing it. I know recently Trump came out and said, he's like, I've been taking hydrochloroquine for weeks now. If he really is or he isn't. What do you think about them pushing, you know, pharmaceuticals that are kind of so far unknown as to their effects on the general people, and if they're actually going to make a difference?
My personal opinion is the way it should be phrased is we have some medications that have some early positive signs. I think, unfortunately, the president has a massive amount of sway across the world, not just here. So after he said that, we started seeing a lot of chloroquine poisoning in third world countries because they can just go buy it. They don't need scripts. Right. And the information or unfortunately with hydroxychloroquine, it doesn't really seem to have panned out. But yeah, some of it seems to actually can be harmful. You know, the other thing is all the data, as far as I've seen, has been all focused on treatment. And if it happened to work at all, it was on cases that were not terribly ill. And there's no indication, as far as I can see, that you should be taking it, particularly for prevention, because it's not an antiviral. So it doesn't really make sense. Now, remdesivir, we have information. The preliminary trials and some of the information we have actually now looks good, not necessarily on the critically ill, but on people who are sicker, and it seems to shorten the course. Now, it's important to be careful because what I've seen is anecdotal with the remdesivir. But so, you know, a couple cases that happen to be good in a row does not mean that it really works. That being said, we have data to show that seems to help. So
and also, you're talking about like someone who's just beginning an onset of showing symptoms. You get diagnosed, you have it, but it's not so severe yet, right?
That's what they were talking about with hydroxychloroquine. With remdesivir, it actually seems to help hospitalized patients. Not necessarily people ventilated, but hospitalized patients. Oh, wow. And that's what the early stuff is showing. Now, the flip side is it's really difficult to get because a lot of it was isolated or allotted to hospitals that were specifically doing trials, randomized control trials, to make sure that if it works, they would know or not. And so a lot of it is kind of wrapped up in that. They're trying to release more of it now. But I mean, there are plenty of drugs that we're still using. Things like another one called Actemra, that completely and totally theoretical, that people have been kind of throwing around too, and it's it's immunosuppressant, basically, trying to knock down the immune response that kind of gets hyperactive. That seems to cause some of the really serious effects of COVID. But what do I think about it? I mean, we need to be trying all of these things, but we need to make sure that the misinformation is kept to a minimum. When we get excited about something, we should kind of keep it less out of the public eye by name. I think it should be more of, we have something that looks promising, it's being studied, so that we don't have hoarding. I mean, there are a lot of, like with hydroxychloroquine, for example, we saw a lot of physicians writing unnecessary scripts, and the blowback from that was that a lot of people who needed that medication couldn't get it. Right. Yeah. I know when people who have lupus use it, and I know a lot of people that arthritis. Yeah. Yeah, we're having trouble finding it, and also when I say the drug czars, I do worry. You know, if Trump's his friends, his family, if they've invested into some of these pharmaceutical companies, and that's why these are some of the names you're hearing before they're really out there, is, you know, because if they're getting some sort of kickback, whether it be,
above board or not, just for the uptick in sales. So
possible. The other thing is I wouldn't be surprised with is particularly with Trump, with someone with as much money as that, he probably has fingers in all pies, not in a malicious way, but he probably has a lot of his money spread out.
yeah,
he may not even know all the stuff that he's invested in. But the point is, yes, it could certainly be misused and manipulated. I think that though we have found when the information comes out, when it's peer reviewed, like so far we have from Remdesivir, that's not something they can really manipulate. Whereas
right.
I guess they can in the public eye, but the person writing the script usually knows. The guidelines are much more difficult to manipulate. It's hard to get 1,000 people to say, hey, let's lie about this drug, write down that this is, look at the study in a different way, and tell all these other doctors who have the same ability to read this article as I do that this actually means something different than what they're reading. It's a lot harder.
No. Right. No, I didn't mean with the Remdesivir as much. I actually had heard right away, that they were saying, hey, we're going to see this looks like it has promise. This was back in March, but the hydrochloroquine specifically, I'm like, man, just stop pushing this thing so hard. But let's move on to something a little bit lighter. The horniness of the solo quar versus the unhorniness of quarring as a married couple. Now, I can speak personally. I see a lot of online friends that are, just at home by themselves, that I guess are just like losing their mind for some human interaction, touch, like just anything. Maybe have their pet, and the ones that are just like literally locked in their house are horny out of their minds right now. Just because, it's also a coping mechanism probably too. You probably are just like, if nothing else, hey, get some. But I know opposite me, I was recently married just a little over a year ago. I know you've been married for how many years now?
8.
Okay. So I don't know.
Next week.
Oh, okay. Well, congratulations in advance. That's pretty sweet. What's the 8-year anniversary? Do you know what the gift, the motif is supposed to be?
Quarantine.
Okay, nice.
I mean, I guess I don't know. It's definitely we've had a couple birthdays and other things, so it's definitely been a question. Had to be a lot more creative. Can't do the same things we usually do. There's no out to dinner. Jewelry stores are closed.
Right.
So it's created a different kind of effort on my part. But it's also been kind of fun. It shakes things up a little bit.
See, but this is kind of okay. So what I'm kind of alluding to, though, more so is now you've been out there because you're working. I've been out there. I'm working. I'm quote unquote essential. My wife's out there working. But I just know, at least it's maybe different if you're in a fresh relationship. But for us, this has not been a horny time for me. My head hasn't been there. Like, I'm not just like, oh, the bodies are really stacking up. Why don't you slip into that nebulous day? Like, it's not those trains of thought don't kind of go in my head. So I don't know. I don't know if you have any advice or any ideas. What do you have anything to say on the matter? Can you help me? Can you prescribe some Viagra for me?
I could. Will I is a different question. Now, as far, I can't really speak to it much either because I have little kids that still require daycare. So, and my wife and I are both essential workers. So, having little kids, we don't get out much anyway. So, my routine is not drastically changed. It's just now when we want to go somewhere, which was few and didn't happen as often as the normal person would have. It's just, well, I guess we'll just stay at home now. But it's not what your lay person or the average person has been suffering. I can tell you that.
Right. Okay. So, and I don't know if you've heard as much about this. There are secondary complications caused by COVID-19. Some of the big ones that came up, and I believe I read this in the Washington Post. I think I sent you the article too when I had first seen it. I don't remember. It's probably been like 3 weeks since. But apparently, what I had read, and then you tell me if I'm off track. When a virus is detected in the body, we generate more white blood cells that are created to kind of fight off the virus. Okay, and you, like I said, you can stop me if I'm right or wrong, but because there's more blood cells,
white blood cells are more for bacteria, but
okay,
yeah, antibodies.
okay,
But antibodies are a response. They're a tailored response. So the reason why coronavirus is such a big deal is because since we've never seen it before, our antibodies are not really tailored to it.
So, well, the thing I was reading though is they said because there were white blood cells being pushed out, it creates a higher risk of blood clot. So healthy people were ending up, some people would end up getting blood clots that could either, depending where it generated in the body, could either travel to the heart, giving healthy people, young people, 30s, 40s, heart attacks, or if it goes up to your brain, you could have a stroke. And this is people that didn't really hit them, just fighting it.
So the secondary complications, as far as we know, it seemed to be a lot of thrombotic effects, meaning blood clots particularly. But on more of a micro scale, there have been macro, so there have been strokes. There have been pulmonary emboli, which is when a large blood clot, will get in the leg and then it'll break off and go into the heart, which will shoot it to the lung. A lot of what we're seeing too are micro emboli. So what can happen is the part that you're talking about, I think, is the cytokine storm, which is the thing that people have been hearing about. And it's kind of when your immune system goes into overdrive, so much so that your body cannot really handle it. It actually becomes a detriment. So you're not able to keep your blood pressure up. And it can stimulate parts of what we call the coagulation cascade. So basically, the different enzymes that are in our blood that are specifically there to start making blood clots. And so you'll end up with these microthrombi. Now, those have had a whole series of side effects. There have been, typically a normal heart attack, for example, is a large vessel on the heart getting blocked from something, typically a breaking of a plaque, and the blood doesn't get past there. We're seeing people who come in, they have an EKG that looks like they've had a heart attack. They have biomarkers that look like they've had a heart attack, and they'll go in, they'll squirt dye in the arteries in the heart, and they don't see any blockages, and it turns out it's from a lot of small vessels, and you can't fix the small vessels. So we're seeing something similar also with the amount of dialysis that's been required. The kidneys are chock full of tiny little vessels, and these little microthrombi seem to be causing major problems. Now, we still have a whole bunch to learn about this. I mean, in some instances, it seems to be causing more bleeding, some GI bleeding, gastric bleeding, whereas so there's a whole group of physicians who think that we should be anticoagulating and another group that says we should not be. We still don't have great guidelines on that, but the secondary complications are a serious part of what's going on, and that's one of the reasons why the cause of death has been kind of suspect, because people will die from renal failure, for example, or stroke, and they say, why are you counting them as COVID-19s? Because, well, 30-year-olds don't usually have strokes. And while there's a possibility they would have had a random stroke anyway, it appears to be linked to the fact of a hypercoagulable state from COVID. People usually, when we list the way that they die, we usually label a whole bunch of things. So we say the person had high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and they died from a heart attack. But you don't really say that the blood pressure and cholesterol didn't contribute to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, what really is starting to concern me as a father is with the new stuff that we're seeing with the pediatric population in New York and all over the world with this new arteritis that looks like Kawasaki's disease, the pediatric, what is it? I can't remember what it's called right now. I think it's PMIS. That is, I think, a pediatric multi-level, multi-organ inflammatory syndrome. We don't really have great ways to treat that either. And, one thing that also concerns me is just because we have this, people get over it. Who knows what long-term complications people can have from this?
is there anything you think we can do to kind of, is it just sort of diet, exercise, immunity boost type stuff? Is there anything else that we can kind of do to try to protect ourselves from if and when we do get the virus?
The two biggest risk factors are actually age. The third largest risk factor is obesity. So now it might be a little late because it's kind of hard to suddenly not be obese, but exercise can overall end up reducing a body's inflammatory response, which we seem to think is related to what's going on. So that is something you could do, attempt for weight loss, try to be more active. That being said, ultimately, one of the hardest things I think for people to accept is the fact that we don't know. We kind of have to sit back and wait for the information to come, and we'll do the best we can, but we don't really have great weapons against this for this fight.
Okay. Did you realize just how much Americans love meat, haircuts, the beach, and the gym?
No.
Fair enough.
But I also realized how much I love all those things on my own, except the beach. Just landlocked here, but the rest of it, yeah.
Are you willing to die for your gym, haircut, and meat? Oh, okay. How about this? Is there a chance that this virus can get into our cattle population, or the pork, or chickens, or something? I mean, didn't it come from a pangolin, or if it came from a bat to a pangolin, or something like that? Like, isn't it possible it just gets into our meat population?
I mean, I'm sure it could. It's zoonotic. I mean, it's spread from. I mean, they've recorded cases in tigers, dogs, and cats so far. But whether or not that actually gets into the cattle, whether they're susceptible to it, becomes susceptible to it, and after the meat is processed, if the virus could survive that and survive cooking, I really just don't know.
Well, we touched on this topic earlier when we brought up the Navajo population, but why do minorities seem more affected by the virus? I know just personally, and this is anecdotal, you tell me how off I am, because of some of the systemic issues in the Black community, let's say, or areas where there's zoning issues. Like, I know, I want to say Compton out here in LA doesn't have a hospital in their city limits. A propensity towards fast food if it's cheaper in some of these, more impoverished communities. Smoking, drugs, alcohol, diet, all these factors, things that can tend to be, whether it be finding ways to just sort of pacify yourself because of any sort of an escape from the realities of the situation, or just because of money, and it's cheaper. Fast food is cheap for a reason. I think it's the trash. But why does it seem like minorities are being more affected, having a harder time with the virus, specifically the Black community? I know they're having higher death rates than a lot of other communities.
It's a guess, an educated guess, but I guess it would be there's something we call the social determinants of health. There's a large study done over several decades that determined that your money, the amount of money that you have, is directly related to how long you live. They seem to relate that to amounts of stress. And then regardless of your economic status, white people live longer than Black people. And they, again, related that to stress. So this, I think, has mostly to do with the social determinants of health. So we see more poverty. And with poverty, we typically see more medical problems to begin with. So, I think it's just really more social than genetic, quite honestly. That's the long and short of it. So, for the same reason that New York was hard hit, because everyone's on top of each other, you're going to have populations that are poorer, that don't have the same resources, that don't have the same access to medical care, that in general have higher rates of obesity and smoking, and those fall heavily in minority populations.
Yeah, that's depressing. People need hobbies. There's no good segue from one to the other. I'm just sort of powering through these questions. It's no good segue.
People are dying and need hobbies. Got it.
No, but they're saying people need hobbies. Okay, so I had solicited questions from viewers and friends before when they knew I was going to do this, and this was one of the ones I got. This is actually from brother Zach. Brother Zach had noticed that just looking online, seeing what's kind of going on out there. Everyone's sort of coming up with their own theories or whatnot. You have anything to say on the topic? People need hobbies.
I'm reading more when I can. That's about it.
That's actually one of the that's so great. Like a lot of people keep talking about like what they're watching, this and that. Get an audio book. If you don't want to sit down and read a book, listen to Audible. That's a great app. I know I'm taking a lot of time. A lot of books that I don't think I would have been able to get through before, but listen to a book. If you're not going to read a book, listen to a book. Have a book read to you. Okay, let's keep it moving. YouTube conspiracies and the people who share them. Thoughts?
It's too easy to get misinformation. It's propagated. If you put it in the right format, it can seem true. It can seem very authoritative, and seem very factual. They typically spend time making it so they make it so that the main subject is endearing and credible, whether or not they actually are. And I mean, it's a tactic. So people who share them, they've all done their research, of course, and that's been the major issue. It's the most research is you look up the thing and you look up what seems to coincide with your opinion, and then say, "See, look." But it's tough. The misinformation has been really difficult to battle with. It's not really too much more. And I think people are looking for hope, explanations, and answers. And that's not something uncommon to see during a time like this. People are just trying their best, and it's a way of venting frustration, and it can also be a way of trying to help people, but going to have unintended consequences.
Yeah, I also think it's really, really easy to get fooled. There's a difference between saying free speech and yelling fire in a crowded theater. So sometimes just because something looks really presentable, it's sad when you're putting it out there like that and you don't have all the information. But does heat, or not warm, I think I was supposed to say warm weather, heat, or let me fix this.
The virus does not seem to work, or does not seem to survive as well in heat and humidity. That being said, we're seeing huge outbreaks in places in India and Ecuador, in South America. So while sitting out in the sun is not good for it, it's still, there are indoors in all of these places, but there's probably also a reason why it doesn't seem to be spreading as much when people are outside. So yes, but it's certainly not the be-all, end-all, save-all.
Now,
actually, caution should still be exercised.
Yeah, but is it going to kill? Because I know initially, so when they had shut down the NBA and NFL, well, NFL was already out of season, but the NBA, a lot of professional athletes had gone out to Africa, thinking like, I know LeBron went out to Africa. A lot of people went out to Africa like, oh, okay, Wakanda forever. They're going out there. They're like, this is it. We're gonna get away from all this. And I think Americans ended up bringing it to Africa. Like it didn't just die out there in the heat. So we're about to hit the summer. It's about to start getting hot. Should we feel like, okay, we're all good now? It's all gonna go away.
It might have a lull like the flu does, but I certainly don't think it's all going to go away. People still spend time indoors. People still are close to each other. I mean, it's not as hopeful as we would like it to be.
Right. Okay. Here's another. And for those of you who are watching in the comments, I see it. Anthony Perez says, "Learn about the stock market and how it works." Well,
it's probably me screwing up the SEC comment. I can't exactly remember it from before.
No. I'll tell you this. This is just for Anthony specifically. This whole fucking country is a Ponzi scheme. Once you figure out the banks, the stock markets, it all just seem like Ponzi schemes. You will you can either buy in or decide to burn it all to the ground. But I mean, yeah, you can figure out where the money's going. Yeah, it doesn't hurt to understand the money. So this
castles in the sky.
So okay. This is also from Brother Zach. Republicans and Democrats are different types of people and will never agree on anything. Now, I don't buy into that 100%. I think that's part of the problem is creating this either or dynamic. My wife is a Republican. She's not a Trump supporter. And if she does vote for Trump, then her and I will have to figure out where this marriage is going. But I wouldn't say I'm a Democrat at all. I'm not a Democrat, but I'm not a Republican. I'm kind of a radical. So I think what that's more about is this: money and lives. I think that's kind of where Zach is going with it more. Republicans are saying, hey, the economy needs to open up. That's the priority. We can't just go into a depression. And I think what he's saying is Democrats are saying, no, lives are more important than business. It doesn't matter, if the top takes a hit and these businesses get shut down. Where do you kind of stand on the issue, and where is the middle ground?
I think that you should start with the things that you agree with, and you would be surprised at how many of those things are, and then backtrack from there. I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who says, I don't want the economy to do well.
Right.
You'll be hard pressed to find someone who says, I don't care about people getting sick from COVID-19, and start from there. Are they different kinds of people? Sometimes they seem like different species, but I don't think they will never agree on anything. But again, like I mentioned earlier, the politicization of it, everything, the way that people are dividing it into teams, it's shaping people's opinions before they even have them, and I think it's overall detrimental.
Yeah, we have a question from one of the viewers right now. AV Serenity Nuri says, they say COVID-19 will come back hard in the fall. Is that true?
I'm worried it will. Particularly, one of the reasons why colds and things seem to spread a lot in that period of time is because you get a bunch of people together in closed areas, and it's just a lot easier to spread. It's just a lot easier to spread viruses in that scenario. The virus, the way it's spreading, since we don't have immunity to it, since we certainly don't have herd immunity anywhere, and we won't have a vaccine, and with the way that the economy is going to reopen and everything else, I would imagine that, yes, I think it'll come back hard in the fall. How hard is impossible to say. It's still trying to predict the future. But I have serious concerns for the whole country, and because I don't think it's going to be as isolated, I guess, as it was with this first outbreak, where we could just point to a few cities being terrible. I think that since the whole country is kind of opening back up again, they're going to be very resistant to shut down as well. So as far as the cycles go, like I mentioned back in the Spanish flu in 1918, had three major peaks to it. and I think the second one was the worst.
So we may end up seeing a second corner.
One.
Well, second corner, right?
I believe we will. You know, again, I am not an epidemiologist, and I don't have a degree in public health or a certification in public health. I have, there is some that comes along with medical school, among other things. But from what I've been reading, I am concerned it will come back hard in the fall. Whether it's going to be as hard or harder, I don't know.
Okay. How about this? Something funny. Let's break the dreariness for a second. And this is actually hard. This is a mental exercise because when times are this tough, I think it really, what they say, pressure busts pipes and makes diamonds. So, it's like seeing how you see the truest representation of people's character under high stress scenarios. I know in Dune, there was a line where they said, you either, in moments of high stress, you either revert to unconsciousness, which can be just reactive, which can be your lower animal-based behavior, or you sublimate to hyper consciousness, which is where you're like, okay, what do I need to do? What is the right thing to do under this circumstance? And it's just sort of like, it's almost like a fight or flight response. Like where do you go when dealing with these things? So
that wasn't very funny.
I know. Here's where we're going with something funny. Is the point of all that is this? It's hard. It's a sign of strength to try to find humor and light in this. So I know Tom Segura. This is where I'm going with this. You ever heard of Tom Segura?
I don't know.
I hadn't really. Okay, he's a comedian. He's big time, but I wasn't as familiar with him. He has a special on Netflix right now called Ball Hog. Hilarious. So I'm just saying, my point of all that was saying, for people to try to, without ignoring the seriousness of what's going on in the world, try to find some time to kind of, to laugh, and we'll get through this. So I don't know. You got anything? You got anything funny?
I got a text yesterday that made me really laugh because I was just joking with a friend of mine and talking about how their alcohol consumption had significantly increased. And as sick and sad as it is, the alcoholism in New Mexico is one of the worst in the U.S. So anyway, she wrote, "Everyone, please be careful out there tonight. Just because there's a known DUI checkpoint at the corner of hallway and kitchen."
Right. There you go. There you go.
It made me laugh.
Right. Alcoholism. Hilarious. No.
Yes, definitely.
I'm drinking right now, honestly, and I can't during the week, but hey, find what you can to get through on the weekends when we're here. Here's another one for someone. Empathy is in short supply. And I think this is on all sides. A lot of people, so comedians, musicians, truck drivers, traveling salesmen, business travelers, and I'm talking about within the country. Unless you're really getting out there and seeing a lot of the country, it's hard to see just how diverse we are as a nation. Like we're really, it's like we're a bunch of countries, but we call it one thing, the United States. But it's so regional, the cultures of these different regions. And I don't think, from just being online, it's hard to tell when you see people whose opinions are so drastically different than your pockets. Like someone was shocked. They're in Arizona and they're like, I can't believe this Uber driver, he's got no mask and he's saying that the whole thing is a hoax and whatever. And just because it's like, well, it's a pocket. It's a pocket where he's in, and wherever he's in Arizona, they're hardcore red state area and they don't want to believe it, and it's all become politicized. So do you have any opinion on just trying to be more empathetic with it's not your neighbor, it's with your fellow man and your fellow American kind of going through the situation together, and how to kind of communicate with people online when you see that they don't necessarily believe exactly what you believe.
I don't think that empathy, I can't come up with a scenario where empathy is ever the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. It's about, that's, and sometimes it's the most important when it's hardest to do. That's really all I got.
That's why I think it is empathy. I think, or what's the difference between sympathy and empathy? Sympathy is when you can relate, and empathy is when you can't. Is that a fair way to put it?
Sympathy is feeling bad for someone. Empathy is literally putting yourself in their place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And
putting yourself in their shoes, feeling what they're feeling.
Okay. And what we're talking about empathy, Trump's daily briefings. Have you seen these things? Any of them?
I'm usually working.
Okay. I've gone out of my way to not watch any of them. Not an entire thing. Now I've seen snippets here and there, not just the gaffes, but because he has turned them into little mini rallies, to kind of talk to his base and what he's got to say. But I mean, speaking of just trying to be empathetic towards this guy, I think we put a dummy in the office. I don't want to really go off, but like, he is not prepared for this job, and now, especially in this situation, who's really prepared to be the president in the midst of a pandemic? But you have to be like so cool and thought out. But what do you got any opinion on this guy's daily briefings? Or
I'm just gonna hard pass on this topic.
Sounds good. Okay, let's see. Secret government money, was Yang right? So I know personally, I was shocked. Well, first off, when Andrew Yang was running for president, he was saying, hey, big part of his platform, we're going to do this stimulus thing. We're going to give everybody in the country $1,000 a month. And I was like, yeah, right. I'm like, that is not a platform. I didn't think it was possible. I'm like, we don't have money to just be doling out to people like that. I didn't buy it. And I was kind of, I guess you could even say I was trolling some of his people, okay? But the fact that they broke out $3 trillion, right? Wasn't the first stimulus package that came out? It was something like $3 trillion that they just like found in the couch cushions, it's seemingly. Is there that type of money? Because everything we'd heard up until that point is we're broke. We're the country, we're in such a deficit. We're always functioning in a deficit and going into more debt. Like, do we actually have the money to be in the black? And was Yang right? Could we potentially just be almost creating some sort of like a trickle up economics if they wanted to kind of put money out there into the people who didn't have it?
A little outside my wheelhouse. I don't really know. I like the analogies to, when the house is on fire, you don't really worry about the water bill and putting it out. But where are they getting it? I mean, obviously, if you just print money, you're going to devalue it. But I think this is a little outside of my area of expertise as far as that level of economic strain, I guess, that we're putting on the country. I mean, I can say that we know that trickle up kind of seems to work, but there's also a concept of velocity of money. Money has to keep flowing always, because if it just stagnates, then then there is no economy. But
just that's why I feel like trickle up economics has never really been tried out. We know the trickle down economics didn't work. When you gave the money to the people on top, they kept it. They figured out ways to buy it and to invest it and to keep it flowing in their circles. But if you gave money to the people on the bottom who need groceries and clothes and things, it might go back out into the economy. It might just trickle up economics might work. And it's just something that I never thought was even possible. But if we have a surplus of wealth or redistribution of, you know, these trillions of dollars that are apparently there, it might be just something to, you know, to put in your head as an idea maybe for some point.
I think one of the big concerns would be motivation. If you have people who get money for free, what's the motivation to contribute? But no system is perfect.
So people hate their kids, huh?
All parents hate their kids sometimes. It's like, parenting's hard.
Yeah. I also think, I mean, I don't have kids, but I just think it's really shined a light on how hard of a job the teachers really have. And I was actually joking with my wife earlier today that, you know, when you're in junior high math or something, and the kids or parents go, when will I ever use this in real life? When am I ever going to use this? They never said, you know, well, someday there might be a pandemic and you're going to have to teach this to your kids. You're going to need to know this stuff.
Or they never said someday there's going to be a pandemic and there's going to be a plethora of misinformation and you're going to need to know how to discern what's true and what's not.
Right. I'm actually concerned too that there are going to be major gaps in a lot of this upcoming generation's knowledge from parents that were either unwilling, unable, or uninterested in really teaching them whatever the course load was. So let's say, you know, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, I don't know, wherever it is. It might be, I know I skipped 7th grade and whatever, there was a key factor in math that I just missed going forward. And it threw me off where when I finally got to college, I had to kind of start over. I was like, okay, teach me, start me off with math again. Let's build this thing back up for me to figure out how to put it all together. So I don't know. There are going to be lingering consequences. All sorts of stuff from this. It's going to be wild. As I said, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, there's going to be the a COVID effect.
You know, when we're old and gray, we'll be telling people about the days we were in COVID quarantine.
Right. Vespa mandarinia, aka the murder hornets. Okay, this is something wild that's come out during this time. Now, this is not COVID related. This is just like, what the hell? What the hell? So, you heard about these things? You know, the murder hornets?
I think it's another. 2020 has been an interesting year.
That's understandable.
And I think from what I read, they've actually been in the country since like 2012, but you know, they're making kind of more of a headlines now. And why wouldn't they make more headlines right now? Why wouldn't they? I mean, I don't know. Just as long, I am comforted by the fact that they're not in New Mexico. Put it that way.
I guess they're in Washington State primarily. They'll go into the hives though. So first off, hornets. I never really thought about hornets aside from like the Charlotte Hornets basketball team. Like I think about wasps, bees, but these things apparently would go into the beehive, and with their mandibles, they chop the bees' heads off, and then they end up eating the bees. They're meat eaters. That is the weirdest, grossest part of an insect to me. I mean, I know spiders and what else? Praying mantises eat other insects, but the idea of like a 2-inch flying hornet that meat, like that's like a little flying wolf. That's terrifying and gross.
There's some spiders that will even eat like lizards and other things. I know that growing up, you know, I lived with horses, and so we had there was these little like miniature, I don't know what kind of bugs they were, but you released them out into the wild, and what they did was they burrowed behind the necks of flies and then gradually like ate out the inside of the fly's head and then would lay their eggs there just to propagate, to keep the fly population down. So I'm not an entomologist, but bugs do weird things.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's gross. Okay. Needing someone to blame. So at first, they're like, this is the Wuhan virus, the Chinese flu. The Chinese flu was the dumbest one to me. Okay, so it's like, obviously we're like, okay, we're blaming China. I get it. This came from China. China's fault. That led to hate crimes, a lot of stuff. And the worst part is there are a lot of people who are in these. Look, the country is predominantly white. If you go to Middle America, there's a lot of states where it's just predominantly white people. And if you aren't exposed to a lot of minorities, it's different on the coast and throughout the country in pockets. But if you aren't exposed, then you may not know that it's like, I know my community has a big Chinese, Korean, Filipino, and to a smaller extent Vietnamese population right here. And I can generally tell the difference, but sometimes unless I know culturally or really talking to someone or this and that, people would just be like, this is the Chinese virus and I'm just taking it out on all the Asians. They're all so like that was already a lot, blaming, because it came to Asian people. We just started blaming Asian people, which was a mess. Calling it a flu was dumb too, because then people weren't taking it as seriously as what it's turned out to be. Viral pneumonia plus. And then now, it's going to like, oh, okay, did the Obama administration do this? Is this a deep state move? All these things. Why do we need to blame someone? And is there truly someone to blame? The meat market, meat, I've heard all these things, these are all the causes.
I think it's human nature, sadly. I mean, we're by nature tribal. We always seem to cluster ourselves, sports teams, states, Democrat, Republican, all, put ourselves in different heritage or culture, or as you just said, coasts and middle states. I mean, we identify with millions of little things, and sometimes aggressively so. I mean, sometimes people just, I guess, feel better putting the blame on something else. It gives them something to physically or actively take out their aggression and anger towards what's going on, and they feel like they're being really productive, or as an outlet, despite the fact that it's, I think, misplaced.
I also think it's a way of avoiding responsibility and saying, hey, our response had something to do with this as a country. The fact that we're the epicenter of the disease now, it's an indictment on us. And I think a lot of people don't want to look at America as having fault in this too. It's just to be like, oh, this was foreign attack. And I mean, I don't know. Like I said, until we really know, I think people have a hard time just saying I don't know. We don't know. And I think sometimes that's the smartest thing you can say. It's just, I don't know. We're figuring this out.
Well, I mean, if you look at the Dunning-Kruger effect, the more you realize that you learn for a period of time, the less confident you get, because the more you learn, the less you realize you know.
Yeah.
One of my professors in college used to say, we know more and more about less and less until we know everything there is to know about nothing.
Interesting. Yeah, we're going down a rabbit hole right now too, but I started thinking like, okay, so the brain isn't fully developed till you're 27. So you think about when you're like going to school, okay, and you're like, whatever. I mean, I'm not talking about primary school, even college, 18 to 22. And if you get a master's degree, you can be going to school for another 4 years after that, right? Something like that. So you're around 26 or whatever. You can be jamming all this knowledge and information if you're going specifically into one field per se. You're just becoming an expert on something, and the rest of your brain can just be like, I mean, not empty, but like, just neglected, let's say. So I think it's just more and I'm just trailing off, but like I think it has something to do with accumulating knowledge through experience and time, the wisdom of just accruing more knowledge as your brain is kind of developed. So it's like you're a master of whatever, maybe, or master of none, a little bit of stuff, and then you just keep getting more and more information, and it's multiplying upon itself. So when you have all these people online who are young, generally online, acting like they're experts at everything, or just speaking with like all this like the confidence in the world to be like, I'm positive about this. It's like
Dunning-Kruger.
Take several seats. Like, please, just that's what I was kind of hoping to do with this too. Is like have you out here as someone who could maybe speak a little more, and then even worry about people like Dr. Oz and Dr. Phil who are out there just being like, anyone who speaks. I question anyone who speaks with certainty about anything.
What bothers me, I guess, about those two entities, those two doctors that you just mentioned, is they're speaking outside of their expertise.
Mm-hmm.
So Dr. Oz is a cardiothoracic surgeon. If you have a Ferrari, you want it to be fixed by a Ferrari dealer. Mm-hmm. The guy who only fixes Ferraris, it might not be the guy that you want to take your Volvo to. And he's a cardiothoracic surgeon. Immunology is not his specialty. But anyway, as far as needing someone to blame, human nature.
Fair enough.
Unfortunately it. But the more you learn, I think, the more you realize you have to take the knowledge and act on it rather than blame, because it just keeps you in the same cycle.
What about the quarantine 15? You heard about this? It's like the freshman 15. Just people.
I thought it was the quarantine 19.
That's pretty good. But yeah, like I feel like I've got a little pudgy since this thing has happened. Not I was already not getting to the gym as much as I'd like to just because of my work schedule. But now, I think I was doing the at-home prison workouts for maybe a week and a half, and then that sort of slipped. I don't know. I'm probably got to get back into that. I don't know. What can we do to kind of try to stay as healthy as possible or fit in these circumstances?
Find what you like. Find what you like, or at least what you can tolerate. I try to be very active, but I'm not. For example, I'm not a huge fan of running, but I do it anyway because I know I should. But I try to find other ways to get my heart rate up. There are some really good high intensity workouts that you can do at home without needing weights that are under 10 minutes that can actually get your heart rate up and be really good. So I've known some people who just say, I just want to get through it. But it's important to do something. If nothing, there's a definite tie to mental health as well when it comes down to exercise. So yeah, I think that staying active can't be pushed hard enough, really.
When you say mental health, do you mean depression?
Yeah, absolutely. Depression, anxiety, all those things. People who regularly exercise have much lower incidence of depression and anxiety.
Yeah. Okay. The restructuring of society's hierarchy / essential workers. Okay, so I think this whole situation has kind of shined a light on the facade of celebrity and athlete culture. Well, I guess celebrities, that's musicians too. Although, man, it'd be nice to be able to go to a concert right now or something like that, just to.
St. Patrick's Day, I listened to the Dropkick Murphys give a live show on Facebook, and I've listened to it like 3 or 4 times. It was awesome. I loved it, and it's every time it makes me happy every time I hear it And then
Well,
they did a show just for that. Yeah, I know what you mean.
well, that's why I think there's something to be said. Talent is always going to be admired, whether it be the talent of musicians, singers, songwriters, sports. I think even if we can't go and sit in the stadiums to be able to watch, highest level NBA, NFL, whatever it might be, baseball, hockey. I don't know. Hopefully they can do some of that just for the distraction of it. I think it's a big part of what American culture is. But celebrity as being the pinnacle, like the pinnacle? Pinnacle is something you play. Or is that the bread? Doesn't matter.
Pinnacle's the word you were looking for.
The pinnacle, the top, the tippity top of the food chain is like, right now I think it's really seeing like the people that make our economy go. The doctors, the nurses, the scientists. That's
Janitors.
kind of the janitors.
Oh yeah, you can't run a hospital without janitors and stuff. I mean, you can't do like I'll tell you a story real quick. It's slightly off topic, but when I was in training, we were having trouble getting patients through the ICU when they found not the ICU, sorry, the ER. And one of the biggest holdups they found was that the rooms weren't cleaned fast enough. And that resulted in changes in patient care. I mean, I think just think about anybody who has to go to work in a blizzard. Like I mean, I've almost crashed on my way to work in snowstorms because, someone's got to take care of them. And the janitors at the hospitals are in no different, they're in no different position. They have to go and get there too. So
no, and that's really interesting. And I never thought about it. And I think it's good that to have you as a doctor, even bring that up. It's smart because I can think about it. The janitor at my work. So I'm driving trucks at night. So we see the truck drivers that are moving commerce. The dock workers are out there still, loading and unloading the trucks and doing what they got to do to keep things moving. The grocery store stock clerks and the cashiers. Now, I don't think we need all these fast food workers out there, except for the fact that I guess people need to get fed. They need to be able to get their food, but they're calling that an essential worker. I think essential worker can also be a misnomer for not slave labor, but like laborer. You know what I mean? Like it's like we need the laborers out there still.
Maybe, I mean, to some degree, I mean, I think some of it just has to do with the way that our society is so kind of nitpicky when it comes down to our rules. I mean, they say food. Those are food. Those are places that supply food. But I'm certainly not an expert in that. I guess. I mean, I'm kind of like I said, I don't know how much I really have to add to that. So much as it's kind of, it would be a little easier for me because. And you, I mean, even because here we are, we're both always considered essential. So I don't really know how me giving an opinion to this is really other people would take it so valid. I guess you know what I mean.
Yeah. Like it is important too to understand these people who like everyone's got to make money. We got to figure out a way. And like I said, it is hard. The unemployment thing. I don't know. It's a mess right now. But certain things like the Uber and the Lyft drivers, who knows if people are going to want to do that still, if you want just going to go jump in someone's car, not knowing how many people who's been in there before you, if your driver has been exposed, like there's going to be all sorts of ripples. And just
Windows down.
What's that?
Windows down.
Well, even that. Okay. So talking about the ripple effects, buffets, cruise ships, and theaters. Okay. A buffet. Did a baby just fall?
Yeah.
Baby down. Baby down.
Hold on. She's okay.
Yeah. Okay. You're okay. You're okay. All right. Buffets. Are they done?
I think they very well could be, which is sad. Very Lancer Thanksgiving may have had its last day.
Buffets, salad bars, anything that had a sneeze guard as commonplace might be gone until there's a vaccine. They've always been germ fest. Chinese food buffet, cruise ships.
I think eventually those will come back if they don't all go bankrupt. But
yeah.
Theaters are going to be an interesting question. But I think that's more of an economic thing between this battle that's now going on between Universal Studios and I think AMC theaters.
Oh yeah. Because
who knows where that's going to go? That's a different topic entirely. But I think it's going to. I think the movie theaters particularly be more shaped by that because people are going to want to go to the movies. And I think, in general, everyone facing the same direction. People might put on a mask or something in the future. Who knows? But I think people will still go to the theater.
Yeah. I just know. Okay, so the first movie that I think went straight to streaming was Trolls 2, and it did really well. Now that said,
Disney released that one called Onward, but they just didn't even release it in theaters. They just put it straight on Disney Plus.
Okay, I didn't even know about that one, but okay, so there's another example too, and then Bloodshot, I think was something. It was a Vin Diesel vampire type movie. That one didn't get as much play. There's going to be a movie called Capone that's coming out, which is it might be Ed Hardy as Al Capone, and then the one that I'm actually excited to see and could be proof as to whether some of these movies will work, because this is a movie I would have gone to see in the theater. It's the next Judd Apatow movie starring Pete Davidson in the lead role with Bill Burr as I'm not sure if Marissa Tomei is playing his mom or someone, but Bill Burr is like the guy his mom starts dating. Bill Burr plays a fireman with a red handlebar mustache, but it's Judd Apatow comedy called The King of Staten Island, and that's coming out sometime next month, and it looks hilarious. I mean, I think this is a movie he's done. I don't know if he did what was that movie with Amy Schumer? Do you know what I'm talking about? Came out recently, not too recently. It was I don't know if that was the last Judd Apatow movie. LeBron James was in it. Trainwreck? You might have been called Trainwreck.
Yeah, Trainwreck. I did see that one. I was about to tell you I'm terrible with movies recently, but yeah, I did see Trainwreck. Where LeBron James kept forgetting his wallet every time.
Yeah, and I think this is his next one. And from everything I've seen, I mean, I'm a Bill Burr fan, but from everything I've seen in the previews, this looks funny. So we'll see how much money these straight at-home movies can make. I'm gonna try to power through some of these last one. I only got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's maybe 10. Okay.
10.
Yeah, I know. And that's me cutting out some of the more superfluous questions. But we're at 98 minutes. I wanted to keep this at 90, so let's see if we can wrap this up in 20 minutes or so. Masks and social distancing. What are our rights? So I know a lot of people try, like so we talked about the politicizing of this whole thing. It's my freedom to not have to wear this thing on my face. I understand certain people have I don't know if it's a claustrophobia. Sometimes it's hard to breathe out of those things. Look, it's hard to breathe. If you got a fat face too, it might be uncomfortable. Like there's all sorts of reasons why you may not want to do it. But what are people's rights about it? And what should we let slide?
I can't really speak to the rights. Had a discussion with someone who graduated a year ahead of me from medical school the other day about how effective they are. So he was of the mindset that masks may be causing more harm than good. And keep in mind, this is another physician who actually was trained the same way that I am. So we both kind of went and poured through the information and found a couple different articles and things like that. I found something called a Cochrane review. So Cochrane is one of the gold standard, I guess, one of the better sources of information that we can find. They're experts in meta-analyses, and they did a study, or compiled 67 different studies that were fairly similar, and their conclusion was that the evidence very weakly pointed to masks being beneficial. Mm-hmm. Now, we just don't know how. And the truth of the matter is, I don't think it would be extraordinarily difficult to design studies around masks, mm-hmm. particularly because they would be similar to nutritional studies, where you are completely relying on people remembering what they ate, or, in this case, how long they wore the mask, who they wore the mask around, how much they were actually touching it. And many of the studies we're using on are, people who lived together with other people while they had the flu. Well, I mean, that's a little harder to, it's a little harder to kind of assess that, because you're literally sharing the same place. Now, that being said, I think when it comes down to transmission, we have to be smart about the way that we do it, particularly in closed areas. I think that overall, it's kind of like vaccinations. If the majority of people do it, particularly in public spaces, I think it would probably be beneficial. That's more of an opinion, though, as I said, that because the evidence is quite weak. But that's my certain feeling. And, there are a couple other studies that say that maybe it causes increase in upper respiratory tract infections. However, my argument to that is I would much rather get the infection that we can get an antibiotic for, or that we know is not deadly, than COVID. But it's I know. I don't know there's a right answer, but I think the problem is we have to. The masks aren't for you; they're for the other person. So in order for them to really work, you need a large buy-in. Mm-hmm. And what I've seen plenty of people who wore masks until they were told they had to, and then mm-hmm. they stopped. So I don't know.
I know personally, because I am out there all the time. If I'm in public and I'm going to be around people, I wear a mask. When I was in Newport Beach, when we went to go see the bioluminescence, my wife and I, nobody out there had them on. There were thousands of people out there in very close proximity. I'm like, okay, this is just, they're not buying it. All right. But I still wore mine around the people. When I'm in my car, I don't wear a mask. I'm by myself. When I'm in a grocery store, I wear a mask because I'm around people. And that's just kind of, until they have the vaccination, I feel like it's kind of for the peace of mind of those around you. I do it, but I also understand not everybody's going to, and it's your right as an American to be a dumbass. Okay, that's the way. It's not eloquent, but it's kind of like you can't force people to do stuff. That's just what it is. So if you're really, really worried about contracting this, don't go outside. Don't go around people. Okay, figure out a way to make it work. And when you're around them in society, anxiety inducing or not, just understand not everyone is going to play by your rules. Is that fair?
I mean, I think that's the way it's going to be.
Yeah. The Tiger King. Did you watch that thing?
More because everyone else did. I had to know what they were talking about. I didn't really enjoy it, I think, as much as everybody else did, but it definitely was a train wreck.
Okay, I didn't even watch it. It's hard for me to. I'm not interested. If anyone's going to be hurting animals or abusing them in any kind of way, I don't want that. Like there was that other one. Don't fuck with cats. Did you hear about that one? Did you see that?
I didn't see it, but unfortunately, a couple people told me or maybe fortunately, people basically told me everything, including the punchline. So I don't necessarily feel the need.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have Tiger King on my queue. At some point, I might. But the way I kind of work is like I just saw Harry Potter, like all of them, like maybe last year, 2 years ago. Like I'm always kind of behind the curve. Like I have that whole Jordan documentary thing, all 10 episodes of that thing on my queue. And at some point I'll watch it. Like everyone's already done. I don't care about the I'm just more antisocial generally, so I don't want to care as much about like, oh, this is what we're all talking about right now. This is what we're all doing. But worth watching? No.
Like I said, I think it's worth watching when everyone's talking about it. Okay. In and of itself, I'm not sure how much merit it carries, but I don't think while there are aspects of animal abuse that come up, you never get to see it, and it's more about the people than the animals.
Gotcha. People abuse. All right, let's see. Okay, here's one. What constitutes protesting versus terrorism? And what I mean when I say that is, Michigan and some of these states where you have these free rights activists showing up on government buildings and properties fully armed. Okay, everything's exposed, but they got weapons with them. They look like militia members. They look like they could get into a gunfight or something. Is that not terrorism? Like, are they not terrorizing a community?
I mean, that's a really slippery slope as far, and the question is, where do you moving one way or the other? I guess my opinion is, what was the intent? And I feel like when people showed up to the Capitol building with guns, the intent was to be a kind of in a way, a slight display of force. That it usually, protesting is more of strength in numbers, but a person with a gun is kind of like it's like that on steroids, I guess. So I think it's a way to try to make your individual self louder during a protest. But certainly,
I mean, I'm just thinking about like Kaepernick was taking a knee and America lost their mind. They're like, how dare you bring this into sports? This is against America. And he's like, no, this is not at all. I'm saying that I'm talking about injustice against the Black community. And he was very clear as what he's doing, and that was like, he was shit on.
I think it was his platform. It was his platform. He was in sports where people didn't necessarily want that. When you're protesting at when you're protesting at a government building where government officials are there, it's a lot, I guess, easier to justify. I mean, I don't.
But a sign is different than a machine gun. Like signs.
I would agree with that too.
It's just the same thing. We're saying it's fire in a movie theater if you're posting videos online. How much more so are you? I see you're terrorizing people when you got kids. You're trying to walk your kids. I mean, I guess you're not going to school right now or whatever, and you have people out there with assault rifles going into the Starbucks and stuff. Like, it doesn't seem like the right way to me. But I don't know what the right way is.
Well, I mean, I guess you could argue that it wasn't intended as terrorism, but what you can say objectively is one of the people who worked in that building the following day felt scared enough that she got escorted to work by basically a Black militia, who also carried guns. So, to your point, she felt threatened. But I think it's, speaking of a rabbit hole that you could eventually get down and lose your way. That's kind of what this is.
Well, yeah, it's like you also don't know what's being said off camera. You don't know about the intimidation factor. I fucking someone, like, you don't see all that on camera, like just really trying to threaten people away from what's really being portrayed. But I don't know. I mean, I think it is it's not a double-edged sword. It's a double standard. What's kind of allowed in certain areas of the country and what would not be tolerated at all within certain communities. And I think it's just further inciting anger and fear and what's escalating, bubbling underneath the surface in this country. But let's move on, because you're right. We could spend a whole show on this too. South Korea's response compared to the U.S. So in South Korea, they pretty much wiped this thing out pretty quickly. I know.
They had a resurgence. Yeah.
Oh, they did.
But contact tracing and a public response. You know, the United States, love it or leave it, you know, is a group of individuals. Some of these other countries are much more unified when it comes to responses like that. South Korea is an example of that. It's hard to compare us to them because of that type of mentality. But
culture.
They did have better testing, much faster testing availability. They put a much higher, they reacted quicker, they put more effort and more weight on how important testing was and contact tracing immediately. And again, too late about what has already happened, but I think we need to still do that now.
Well, not just, and this goes back to what I was saying too about like a lot of people, unless you really travel the country, it's hard to understand how big we actually are compared to some of these like other nations. Like when you can't compare us to Germany when Germany is the size, hello baby, when Germany, hi, come here. When Germany is the size of, let's say, Oregon, you know, or something like that. And we're like, oh, well, they just wiped it out quick. And we're like, okay, now imagine we're you know, we have, right, like bigger. Like it's just as hard. People don't get that. They think we're just one thing. It's like, no, we're a lot under one banner. Okay, power through this. It's been reported that Hong Kong has had 0 cases for 26 days straight. Now, here's the thing. It's hard to tell. The whole thing, fake news, while it is divided, is a real thing, especially when we're talking about some of these other countries that have like kind of
vested interest in that reporting. Government
backed media or whatever. It's like it's hard to tell what's getting out there, what's real, what's not. They were in the midst of a revolution, it seemed, before this all happened. Hong Kong had an uprising that China was really kind of against. You know, there's a lot going on. So this whole narrative.
They just try to pass some sweeping laws in Hong Kong that are basically trying, that may be the end of the one country, two systems.
Wow.
But I think that number is probably too good to be true. At least it sounds like it.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to think too. What you just mentioned about trying to pass laws. I think we kind of did that too. Our Senate snuck some stuff into these stimulus package bills. They always do. They always do. It's disgusting, but I don't know. Okay. How did you celebrate Mother's Day in the Quar?
Sent my mom a card. We were supposed to actually go down and visit my wife's family. We do that very regularly. She's very close with them. And, you know, so she couldn't go to her home country. So I spent a lot of time making her favorite, well, not her favorite, but trying to learn how to make an authentic Ecuadorian dish, which maybe came out as a 5 or 6 out of 10. But a lot of effort went into trying to make the food that she wanted, make her feel at home.
What did you try to make?
It's something called fritada. It's it's a type of fried pork.
Okay.
But it turned out okay. Certainly was not as good as what we were used to having when we go down there. But, you know, certainly edible, and I think she appreciated the effort.
That's cool. Does UV light kill the virus?
UVC, definitely. I don't know. UVB, I think, to an effect. I'm not sure about UVA. But yes, ultimately, if it sits outside in the sun, it will die. Those UVC things, they will work. You just got to be careful because you can't shine them on your own skin because of damage. But, I mean, when I was in New York years ago, they used to sterilize some of the rooms by these little robots that would just go in, and then they would just shut the door, and it would just spray UV light and just shoot UV light everywhere for about 45 minutes, and then it would just kind of roll out. That's how it disinfected the room. It works.
Is God mad at us?
I think God sits back and lets us do our thing, and we have to explain it later.
Yeah. To anyone who's watching right now, but by the way, Krista Key says she came in a little late, right around the Great Mass Debate, but is enjoying seeing us and hearing you guys. Hi, Krista. Thanks for watching. For anyone questioning this whole thing and just being like, "Oh God, get out of here," my whole thing without getting preachy, and hopefully I don't lose any viewers, it's not about the church thing at all, but it's big. It's math and science. I'm actually at a point now, I was just talking to someone, I'm starting to really feel like I'm finding peace in the concept of a multiverse. Like, I know if it's a series of big bangs and big crunches and that goes on infinitely so in a loop, then anytime there's a major crossroads in our lifetime, I think it spider webs and fragments into all possibilities. And it's weird, like I'm really being like, no matter what is happening here, it's fully like, I'm almost zenning out. Like, I'm just like, okay, no matter what, it's okay. and I can't fully get that to any convey that to anyone, because it's like literally like sit on the mountain and meditate. But one of the guys that make music with Al, he had said something to me once. He goes, if you don't have time to meditate once, meditate twice. And what he means by that, like in a day, if you don't have enough time to meditate once, meditate twice. The way I take that is about mindfulness. Like, I don't have time to just sit down and devote right now 15 minutes, 5 minutes to like silently meditate. So instead, while I'm doing all the things I have to do, whether it be like, and now I'm putting away my work items and my wallet and this and that, and now I'm washing the dish, is I'm just staying there in the moment instead of stressing about what's happening in the world or what I need to do later in the day or whatnot. I'm just like there kind of in the moment doing what I'm doing and trying to just sort of be present. And that's almost where I'm trying to find my peace. I know that's a tangent, but just, is God mad at us? In my opinion, maybe. We're kind of fucking up, we can do better. We can do better than this, but I still think we'll be all right. And I refuse to be scared regardless. Yeah, I know that was a lot. I've been drinking. Has celebrity been canceled?
I don't. You mean I don't even know. You talking about like celebrities, or is there a show called Celebrity? Because I'm really not in the loop in those things.
I mean, is it going to rebound? Like once we go back to normal, is it just the same, business as usual as where it's always kind of been, or do we put less of a is precedent the word I'm looking for? Less of a value on just like, oh, Kim K. Fantastic.
Maybe to some degree, although what I think one thing that's kind of shut us, or one thing that I have seen is people desperate for these distractions.
Right.
I mean, one thing when people are in quarantine, people say, see, they're not essential anymore. But then all you hear about is, man, I miss sports, or wouldn't it be nice if, I don't know. I mean, there's something to be said about the distraction of it and the enjoyment of it. So it might reshape how some of it's done, but there's always going to be famous people.
Yeah. No. Okay. How about this? Cleanser in the body. Thoughts?
Only rectally. Just kidding.
Oh,
just kidding. Fine.
Well, sometimes you mean like a UV light, or?
I'm entirely kidding. No, that.
A bidet is the cleanser in the body.
Dangerous. I mean, it says it right on the label. Don't pick up a Lysol can. It's not for ingestion. That's. I mean, I don't really. Don't do it. That's it.
Okay. I think it's fair. No. What else we got here? Bread making. Have you made any bread since you've been in the quarantine?
No, I do try to limit carbohydrates a little bit, so that would kind of go against that.
Okay.
I usually drink. I drink beer instead of bread making.
Those are your carbs. What beer are you drinking right now?
Right now, like today?
Well, not at the moment, but I'm saying, what are you drinking? What's kind of your favorite right now?
Let's see. I like a variety. Really tangent. When I went to Ireland years ago, I realized how American I was, and what I meant by that is I couldn't drink just Guinness every day for a week. It drove me nuts.
Is it warm? Do they drink at room temperature, or is it chilled?
Warmish.
Yeah.
But I realized though at that point how American I am because of the variety that we enjoy because of our multicultural aspect that extends to our sports, our breads, our beers, our food. And so, which beer am I enjoying? I have about 5, I think, different types of beer in my fridge right now, depending on. I don't have that many of each one, but it's depends on the day.
Fair. I actually would want to get into bread making. I had thought about it. I'd actually mentioned it to my wife, but not even before quarantine. Just because hobbies. Like making bread sounds delicious. Like just have some fresh bread that you made at the house sounds great. And I know a gal who I'm friends with who, has been doing that sourdough starter type thing at her house. But I think there's some sort of, when we talk about the horniness of the single quar, I think there's something to it too. Is like, I don't know if it's sensual to make bread. Maybe that's a lot saying it's sensual, but I think there's like, I don't know where I'm going with this.
I don't either. I have no clue.
I'm making it weird. Okay, so I had asked some of the viewers if they wanted to send in any questions. For those of you who are watching in the comments, we're about to wrap this up here pretty soon, but if you have anything to add, feel free to leave it there and we'll ask while Dr. Connor's with us. But the first question I had for you was this, from one of the friends. You sound like a lying dog-faced pony soldier. All right? So I guess my question to you is, are you that?
No.
Okay. And then
Zach.
No, this is just one of the other. I said I'm gonna ask Dr. Connor questions, and they just said, you sound like a lying dog-faced pony soldier. I said, I'll be sure to ask him. So I did my part. And
There's
then
no question mark. That sounds more like a statement.
Yeah, you're probably right. My mistake, wrong inflection. And then unless we get anything else, this is the last one. And this is from Zach. The future is now. And I really kind of agree with him. 2019, it felt like, progression, the technological revolution was plowing away, as this kind of has been, trudging on. But this feels different now. The masks, the dystopian aspect of everything, the fact that Bezos is on track to become a trillionaire. Like this is different. We're in a different world now. This also, the fact that we might be losing the buffets. Are you kidding me? And the murder hornets are out there. Like it feels very different. So do you have any thoughts, advice, or commentary on where we're going or where you would like to see us ending up?
Where we're going is impossible to say, but where I would like to see us end up is getting everybody, finding the common goal and actually getting steps towards that. Being able to step towards that goal in unison without trying to divide it by, particularly right now, political party. I mean, trying to do both the things at the same time, make our country as safe as we possibly can, make the world a safer place if we can. But trying to keep everyone healthy. That's really what I hope. I think ultimately this does feel different. But remember, we haven't had anything remotely like this for 100 years. And it's also different because we're able to broadcast our feelings in a way that was certainly not possible at any other time. So I think that almost keeps the angst and anxiety up to a level that may be constantly present. Ultimately there will be a new normal. How close it is, I mean, what can you really do but accept it and embrace it? Ultimately, I mean, you can try to rail against it at the very end and try to make it different, but it's a very tiny rudder on a very, very, very large ship. So you can only, you can have your peace, but things will move. Some things may shift, some things may not, and have to do the best we can with it.
And I agree with everything you say. I would just tack this on too. If you're able and willing, I'd also fight for the future you want to see as well. Be willing to put yourself out there too. Don't just count on the other guy to do it for you. But I appreciate you coming on and doing this and answering a lot of these questions. I mean, I think it's been a lot of anxiety for all of us. So thank you. I appreciate your time. And it's good to see you and it's good to talk. And, I look forward to seeing you on the other side of this. But I know you got to get going to your family too. So we'll be in touch. All right. So take her easy. Yeah. Appreciate you, Doc.
For having me. And take care.
Okay. All right. We'll talk to you later. Bye.